The earth fractures into long, jagged faults that cut across the open plains. A dense veil of dust clings to the ground and drifts steadily toward the horizon. Overhead, wisps of cloud thin out, allowing sharp rays of sunlight to break through and strike the baked terrain. No river runs here, yet the land begins to quiver. Across the broken crust, thousands of hooves land in unison. With every step, dust billows outward in rippling waves. The leading animals sweep past first, followed by an unending surge of bodies behind them. Grasses bow in their wake, creating a path that seems to stretch into infinity. The entire savanna pulses to this rhythm, from the vast flats of the Serengeti to the shallow valleys of the Masai Mara. The soil refuses to remain still. Herds of all sizes move with the shifting winds, drawn by distant hints of rain. Every step forms part of a larger pattern, a system in which survival relies on a shared, instinctive migration. Nothing in this ecosystem stays constant. It changes with the seasons, the storms, the growth of new grass, and the passage of each roaming herd. Every species fulfills its own role, and every action contributes to the steady heartbeat of the plains. Each year, when the early rains soften the earth, the first hoof strikes the ground again. From that impact, the chain of life restarts. Short grasses unfurl across the cool, damp soil of morning. The air hangs motionless. At the edge of a shallow depression, a pride of lions lies pressed against the ground, concealed among scattered shrubs. The first light slices across their backs, blending them into the sun-bleached landscape. Far in the distance, a herd of wildebeest drifts steadily forward. The groups stretch into loose, shifting lines that follow the contours of the low ground. Space widens between clusters of prey. Openings form around the young. The lions remain still, using the terrain for cover. They begin to move in sweeping arcs. Each lion maintains a precise distance. Their angles narrow from three sides. No vocal signals are exchanged. No long chase forms. As the herd moves into the depression, The attack quickens. A single animal is isolated. Its escape path tightens. A bare patch of earth becomes the point where motion stops. There, the prey collapses. Grass lies flattened on one side. The lions fan out across the kill site. One stays over the carcass. The others withdraw back to cover. The area falls quiet. The wind keeps its direction. No sounds of struggle follow. No further commotion spreads. Hoofprints sink into the softened earth. A low ribbon of blood scent begins to drift along the ground layer. The hunt depends on strategy, not speed. Lions do not require explosive pursuit. They win through spacing, positioning, and an understanding of how prey move. Each individual fulfills its role. When close enough, they apply pressure as a single unit. Their targets are often animals that drift just outside the herd's alignment, too distant for protection and too close to escape the tightening arc. The chosen individual cannot alter its fate. The outcome emerges from natural patterns, not error. Once selected, no prey can shift its place in time. Scavenging birds sense the warm carcass from afar, the first circling high above. Beneath them, beetles already detect the scent of the opened body. Decomposers begin their work before the lions leave the site. Within a day, the soil around the carcass darkens. Fluids seep into the base of the grass. Roots draw in the residue. Soil bacteria cling to tissue fragments. New blades of grass rise in rhythm with the warmth, moisture, and nitrogen left behind. By afternoon, the lions rest beneath low trees, stretched along the edges of the shrubs. The grass around them stays still. No major movement follows. Their paw prints run along soft dirt paths and fade at the edge of the field. The morning kill leaves no sound behind, but the earth keeps its record: absorbed fluids, buried bones, and microbial change already underway. Short grass spreads evenly across the open plain. The ground lies dry and brittle. Beneath low shrubs close to the soil, a leopard slips quietly through narrow openings. Its body stays flattened against the earth, hidden from anything moving above. The wind shifts direction again and again, sending clusters of grass swaying in different lines. Nothing stirs beyond a thin boundary of dust and shadow. The distance between hunter and prey closes steadily, yet the atmosphere remains unchanged. Ahead, a herd of Thompson's gazelles grazes in an even spread. Young animals stand along the outer ring, adjusting their stance with each shift of wind. Between predator and prey lies no true barrier, only a bare, exposed stretch of dry earth. The leopard keeps a controlled, consistent rhythm. There are no abrupt changes, no early burst of speed. Still within striking range, it stops beside a low rise in the ground. Its body folds into the shallow shadow, disappearing into stillness. The entire field settles into mute expectation. Each time a leopard hunts in the open plain, several environmental conditions must align: a gently rolling landscape, evenly spaced shrubs, and prey scattered loosely enough to isolate. A solitary hunter cannot afford mistakes. Once detected, there is no partner to flank the herd. No group effort to force confusion. No cooperative retreat. Every success depends on closing the gap with exact precision. If that necessary distance is lost, the gazelles react and flee beyond the leopard's control. The animal cannot maintain long pursuits on open ground. Its body is designed for short, explosive acceleration. Each chase follows a narrow, straight path. If the pursuit veers too far off course, or the gazelle bolts quickly, the hunt fails. Failure happens more often than success, not because the leopard lacks skill, but because the open plain presents too many variables. Wind direction, the angle of the sun, the height of the grass, and the spacing of prey all shift unpredictably. Even so, the leopard's presence alone changes gazelle behavior. Small herds rarely remain scattered across open terrain. The young move closer to their mothers. Feeding stops more frequently. Groups cross low visibility ground at a faster pace. A kill isn't required to influence the system. A single appearance can shift herd spacing. Reduce resting time and disrupt grazing. This spreads herbivore pressure more evenly across the region. Leopards do not compete directly with lions or hyenas for territory. Their solitary, independent hunts create a secondary layer of predatory pressure. They avoid direct confrontation, yet still affect how prey distribute themselves. No herd remains concentrated in one location. No herbivore species holds the advantage long enough to dominate the flatlands. The leopard's irregular presence forces herbivores to spread out at a safer distance. No group stays in one formation long enough to damage grasslands. No patches grazed to exhaustion. The pressure is low but continuous. A quiet alertness remains, even without an active hunt. The leopard chooses isolated pockets, leaving minimal trace. Its kills are small and quickly consumed. Scavenger flocks rarely gather. The remains are too limited to draw larger predators. By targeting weaker individuals, The leopard reduces scent spread and avoids scavenger interference. Its presence seldom disrupts the broader predator hierarchy. By late afternoon, the leopard retreats from the edge of the plains, its passage barely marked upon the soil. When one species begins to move, another shifts in response. As the grasses are eaten down, the soil receives nutrients in return. When a prey animal collapses, decomposers are already in place to take over. Together, the Serengeti-Masai Mara system forms the biological axis of East Africa. Energy starts where hooves strike the ground, passing through every bite taken, every pursuit, every carcass torn apart. Nothing in this mechanism is unnecessary. Each component matters only when it moves with the larger flow. Across the wild grasslands, the Great Migration pulls all living things into a vast, interlocking engine of predation and renewal. Fresh shoots rise from soil recently dampened by rain, and wind bends the slender blades in a single sweeping direction. Out on the open plains, newborn calves stumble from their birthing grounds and merge with the slow-moving river of adults. They do not stop. They begin their forward motion long before their legs grow steady. As the rainy season spreads across the southern Serengeti, wildebeest herds leave their calving grounds. The first groups step onto the softened earth, crushing young grass underfoot and carving faint trails across the plains. The movement never pauses. Small bands merge into expanding masses. The herd grows as scattered clusters from every direction fall into a unified course. The path may shift, but the forward direction remains. The pace is measured yet constant. Behind them, the ground compresses into deep tracks. Grass is pressed flat. Dung drops in a steady line behind the flow. The air thickens with the smell of bodies, manure, and disturbed soil. Every step leaves a clear mark of a living current passing through. On that enriched ground, new organisms emerge. Dung beetles burrow beneath fresh piles. Birds skim just above the surface, following the herd closely. Weaker wildebeest drift to the rear, their scent pulling in scavengers and predators waiting along the periphery. The migration cuts a corridor through the savanna, clearing space for other species to follow. Tall grasses are consumed, old roots torn apart, and the soil loosened by hooves and organic waste. Every region the herd crosses becomes a zone of biological renewal after the dry months. Each wildebeest contributes directly to this process. While alive, they scatter dung, urine, and scent markers. When they die, their bodies become hubs of decomposition. Birds, insects, and microbes gather in layers. No pursuit is required. Scavengers already have something to claim. No delay is needed. Dung beetles immediately locate fresh waste. No isolation is necessary. Predators simply watch, waiting for the stragglers to fall away from the main flow. All life here benefits from the concentrated movement. The wildebeest do not create the ecosystem, but they keep it functioning. Microbial communities in the soil are activated by the surge of organic input. Other species begin their own cycles when the wild herds appear. This ecosystem does not respond at random. It waits for the signal of the migration. As the wildebeest advance, the grazing zones along their migration corridor shift at the same moment. Species density increases along their path, and every area they pass through becomes a link between layers of life. No single species clears the route on its own. No ecological cycle begins without a catalyst. Reproduction follows the rhythm of rainfall, and when the ground is still damp, calves are born. The moment the young are able to stand, the herd begins to move again. This synchronization protects newborns from immediate predation, yet the same timing sends signals across the entire system. The space behind the herd transforms quickly. Grass rises again where it was pressed flat. Bacteria break down what has fallen. Moisture remains trapped in the topsoil, held in place by fresh organic matter. Every zone touched by the herd becomes a temporary center of biological renewal. Other herbivores appear behind them, drawn to cleared ground. Older grasses have been eaten away, making room for shorter layers to grow. These species are not in competition. They depend on the wildebeest trail as a natural clearing mechanism. The soil is loosened, roots spread more freely, and conditions align for a new cycle. The movement of the herd also places pressure on predators. Hunters must adjust their breeding periods, ambush strategies, and territorial ranges to match the herd's pace and direction. Scavenging birds track the places where carcasses accumulate. Vultures, crows, wild dogs all arrive at sites marked by decay. The ecosystem keeps time like a single living structure. Its rhythm begins with the rain, but the first gear engaged is the wildebeest herd. No individual animal determines the route, yet the mass moves with enough momentum to shift the entire system. On the living map of the Serengeti Masai Mara, the wildebeest migration acts as a pulse. Each year, that pulse activates again. From the calving grounds in the south to the northern pastures, every piece of land responds in a precise sequence. Other species do not survive because of the wildebeest, but the annual cycle begins with them. No behavior within the herd exists in isolation. Every hoof that hits the ground triggers soil changes, shifts in vegetation, and the emergence of new species. This is why the wildebeest mark the start of East Africa's life cycle, not for strength or speed, but because their first step sets the entire ecosystem in motion. On the Grumeti Plains, the earth shows faint cracks left by a brief dry season. Grass has begun to sprout, though it has not yet thickened. Across the open field, a herd of zebras advances in a broad, coordinated line. No dust rises in their wake. The wildebeest herds remain far behind, not yet close to the transition zone. Striped bodies move across the plain, cutting through the grass toward the east and northeast. Shadows fall over the pale soil. Larger animals maintain a steady stride, while smaller groups linger along the edges. The lead position shifts continuously from one zebra to another. Their passage forms a clear band across the landscape. Grass lies pressed into a gentle curve. Zebras migrate earlier than the main grazing herds. They appear in places untouched by hoofprints, following their own routes. They do not wait for synchronized cues. As soon as the rains produce enough new growth, the herd moves. Their range does not extend far, but their timing always precedes the peak migration. This offset migration creates a distinct rhythm within the ecosystem. Zebras do not wait for grass to soften into ideal forage. They arrive early and trim only the upper portions of the stems, leaving the lower layers intact. When other herbivores pass through later, the grass is already clipped close to the base, well suited for species with different digestive systems. As the herd crosses Getty, it leaves a clean grazing line shaped by the wind's direction. Grass is cut evenly. Low shrubs lose their screening effect. More sunlight reaches the ground. The area grows brighter and more open. Ground-level thickets begin to rearrange according to the new pattern of plant cover. Throughout their movement, zebras do not hold rigid formations. They travel in loose clusters, spreading out to widen their grazing sweep. At shallow waterholes, the herd divides into smaller units, each using a different vegetation patch depending on terrain. This dispersion creates a layered influence. Every cleared section becomes accessible to other organisms. From insects and ground birds to small grazers, no area endures prolonged high density. These biological layers experience a smooth, evenly distributed wave of change across the horizontal stretch of the plains. Zebras never graze the grass down to its roots. They disturb only the upper layers, leaving the base intact. This remaining growth becomes ideal for low-grazing species such as gazelles, warthogs, and scattered groups of wildebeest. Zebra movement slows the rate of vegetation wear, inflicted by the larger herds that follow. Because their reproduction is not concentrated in a single season, smaller zebra groups can travel freely. The herd can split without disrupting the broader migratory system. Each group maintains its own pace, giving each section of grassland time to recover. No location becomes a prolonged bottleneck. When predators approach, zebra groups react differently from tight herd-forming species. They scatter across open space rather than clustering together. This disrupts the strategies of predators that rely on compact formations. Their fragmentation spreads hunting pressure and increases the chances for individuals across the system to slip away. Zebra hoofprints are shallow but steady. Their dung falls in a dispersed pattern instead of dense piles. Waste spreads evenly over rejuvenated soil, helping retain moisture at the grass base. Soil bacteria begin to expand from these points. Dung beetles follow the scent, loosening the ground for new roots to take hold. From an ecological standpoint, zebras create a horizontal current of biological movement. It is not as forceful as the vertical pressure exerted by wildebeest, nor as heavy as the disruptive trampling of buffalo. Yet this current softens the overall impact on the land. The soil receives a gentler, longer-lasting, and more evenly distributed force. Predators adjust their strategies around zebra cycles to improve ambush success. Lions, hyenas, and wild dogs often set up earlier ambush points in areas not yet reached by the wildebeest herds. Before the main migration arrives, regions like Grumeti become distinct hunting zones. As a result, predation pressure spreads more evenly over time. Zebras do not impose overwhelming ecological force, but they help disperse it. The system absorbs disturbance across multiple points. Soil is not stressed for long periods. Root layers remain partially intact. Each recovery cycle shortens because the disturbance is lighter. During the transition season, if only the main herd were present, the plains would have to absorb the full ecological pressure in a brief window. Soil would not loosen quickly enough. Microorganisms would not multiply at the needed rate. Grass would be torn out rather than clipped. Without zebra herds, the migration corridor would lose its initial layer of distribution. Predation would cluster into fewer, more intense moments. Recovery cycles would lack a buffer. The grasslands would shift color sooner, and roots would become exposed more quickly. The ecosystem would lose its smooth, wave-like curvature and instead form a fragile, linear trail across the open plain. Zebras leave behind no dramatic spectacle, yet each passing herd clears the surface, opens the view and allows a brief flow of air through the vegetation. Every quiet band of early migrants helps preserve the system's resilience. And it is this offset, non-overlapping rhythm that prevents the Great Migration from collapsing into a single, overburdened line. Across the open grassland, a narrow trail cuts through the earth. Dust lifts softly along a zigzag line. Wind passes through mid-height grass, carrying traces of movement that have not yet settled. Thompson's gazelles appear in scattered clusters, each individual keeping a measured, instinctive distance. On the bare terrain, with no obstacles or tall vegetation, every movement is swift. Sudden changes in direction reduce the time spent within a predator's field of view. When a threat emerges at a distance, they launch themselves into angled leaps. Their running paths bend into irregular curves, forming an unpredictable mesh of motion. The centrifugal forces within the group break the herd structure, then pull it back together once danger fades. Gazelles give birth at dispersed points across the dry soil. They do not concentrate, they do not linger. Each female selects a low grass patch and moves at her own tempo. When the newborns can stand, the herd shifts again. No trace remains. No moment lingers behind. This dispersed movement pattern prevents gazelles from forming clear targets. Lions, hyenas, and leopards manage to catch only those that drift off axis. Most of the herd keeps a steady rhythm, avoiding major fragmentation. Speed helps them escape the strike, but it is their unpredictable direction that breaks stalking attempts. With no cover to retreat into, gazelles use open space itself as an escape route. The wider the clearing, the lower the risk. In the mid-dry season, they make up most of the remaining biomass. Long after the larger herds, wildebeest and zebra, have moved on, gazelles maintain a consistent presence. They graze close to the base of the grass, feeding on sprouts untouched or untrampled by heavier animals. Their constant movement prevents the vegetation from losing all pigment. With every pass, they draw small scavengers, field insects, and ground birds. Hoof marks leave shallow grooves that collect water. Moisture lingers long enough for new shoots to rise. Areas visited by gazelles often recover faster than untouched zones. Their instinct to withdraw from hot spots and reappear from multiple directions sustains an unbroken life rhythm. No species can confine their motion to a fixed pattern. Survival depends on continual movement without habitual routes. Gazelle herds weave scattered fragments of life into a continuous biological stream. They form the cushion between apex predators and the lowest tier of the food web. They do not trigger population surges, but they stabilize the surface layer of the ecosystem. When gazelles vanish from a grassy zone, the middle prey layer collapses. Predators shift upward or downward, fracturing the natural order. The ecosystem loses its moderating force. Amid the vast motion of the Serengeti, gazelles serve as the seam between two ecological worlds, thin but essential. Each time they glide across the ground, they leave behind a faint ridge, and from that ridge, the rhythm of life sustains its balance. On damp ground after a night of rain, low mist still clings to the grass. The scent of old flesh rises from a shallow depression at the edge of the grassland. A carcass lies on its side, the skin torn open. Spotted hyenas arrive from multiple directions. They maintain order within the group. Each individual holds a defined position around the carcass. There is no crowding, no pushing. Powerful jaws tear through flesh, pulling large sections of meat clean from the bone. The carcass is reduced gradually, its remains distributed downwind. As the main body breaks apart, several young individuals approach from the periphery. Their teeth do not search for soft flesh. Instead, they wedge into joints, separating bones and stripping the last threads of tissue. Only dry soil clings to the exposed marrow. Everything else has been taken away in pieces. When they rise during a silent night, they signal closure, not for predator or prey alone, but for the entire cycle that restarts at the point of decay. No presence both disrupts and regulates like the hyena. They enter hunting zones. They take flesh from the powerful. They consume what is left behind. And when they leave, the site is clean. There is no scent. There is no carcass. There are no pathogens. On the map of life, where every creature leaves waste behind, hyenas alone convert that waste back into the starting point of the cycle. No other animal eats the final remains. After all others have moved on, only dust is left, and the distant night call of the hyena marks with certainty that the cycle has closed and that the ground is clean enough for life to begin again. Across the sweeping plains of Africa, the great migrations unfold as one of nature's most intense battles for survival. Every step of the journey carries risk predators lurking in the shadows, rivers that test courage, and a landscape that shows no mercy to the unprepared. Here, danger is constant, and only those who adapt, endure, and push forward can hope to survive. Yet, despite the relentless challenges, countless animals continue this ancient pilgrimage, driven by instincts shaped over millennia. Their struggle is a powerful reminder that survival is not just about strength, but resilience, cooperation, and the will to keep moving. As we conclude our exploration of this remarkable natural spectacle, we witness a world where every creature plays a vital role in the timeless rhythm of life. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. Your support helps us bring more breathtaking stories from the wild to your screen.